Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, hopefully finishing up our build of the Estes Loadstar II. So in the intervening time since the last video, I painted the work that's done here. By the way, I painted this as a whole unit, even though it's two separate stages. I really did not want the red coupler there to get any kind of paint or even the stickiness from like masking tape on it. So I painted it like so, and it worked pretty well. One thing you should probably be aware of is that yellow is like the hardest color to get right with spray paint. So it took 3 coats of paint in order to get this level of yellow, which is what I wanted, which is what the cap on the spray paint looked like. Yeah, first coat like never gets their color right, so it takes more than one. Now, the next thing we need to do here is put the decals on. There's a whole sheet of them. I've cut many, but not all of them out. The instructions suggest that you might want to use a hobby knife for this. I always use scissors. It's personal preference. I don't think it makes much of a difference, really. The last bit here, I'm going to cut this as close as I can, even to the point of maybe going into the color part itself. I prefer not to do that, but I don't really want any of the white or clear rather backing peaking. So I'm going to get as close as possible. And the reason is this part is the very top of the second stage. It's where the rocket meets up with the nose cone. And I don't really want any excess clear, or well, it'll be yellow because it's clear, right? Sticking out there. I want this to be red all the way to the top. Now the vertical parts aren't as critical because chances are they're going to overlap. So that won't be much of a problem. By the way, because this is from a bulk pack and it doesn't have the individual artwork, the big colorful insert that most Estes kits have when you buy them, you are somewhat left to your own devices. I would suggest just Google the kit and find the artwork that way. This one, I don't think Estes manufactures anymore, which is too bad because it's a very nice kit. So you probably won't be able to find it on their website, but you could certainly find it on a reseller's website that still sells these, or there are lots of people out there on the internet who are interested in rockets who are very happy to, show all the rockets they've ever built and have pictures and stuff. So that's an option. All right, I'm not going to do all of this right now, but this piece right here is going to go up at the top like so. It's going to wrap around. So, oh, by the way, the other thing I guess you could do is you could look at the art here, but it's not in color, so it's hard to see. So I'm going to clear things out here a little bit. Things you need in order to apply these water slide decals include water and something to dab the water off when you are done, which I'm going to be using a paper towel for that job. Here is hot water straight from the tap. This doesn't really fit too well inside the custard cup that I'm using, but it'll be close enough. Basically, it just needs to get wet. And the hotter the better. The backing seems to break down better with hot water rather than cold. This will probably take me 2 applications. I'm going to apply as many decals as I can until the water gets cold, and then I'll do the rest kind of off camera, I think. The other things that need to be done, by the way, include putting on the shock cord and the parachute. We'll see if I do that in a video or not. Probably not, because I've done it repeatedly, but I guess it wouldn't hurt. All right, water slide decal feels wet, obviously, and it shifts a little bit. And I could probably stand a little bit more soaking. You don't want it like really, really loose because then you have little control over it, but that was probably not quite loose enough. All right, incidentally, the other decals that you can see at the top of the screen, most of them are going to go on the fins of the second stage. The first stage doesn't seem to have anything on it. There are 2 stars there. I didn't see any place to put the stars, so I think I'm going to put them on the first stage, the booster stage, just at the end of fins. Just, I don't know, because I'm not sure what else to do with them. Naturally, of course, it's your rocket. You can do with it as you please. All right, this is nice and loose, and I want this all the way up at the top. The nice thing about waterslide decals is that they slide, so you don't need to get it exactly right out of the box, but it would be good to get it, close. Just be careful with this too, because it is a very thin sheet of plastic. It is far from indestructible, and you can obviously tear it, which would be bad, but you can also deform it if you're pulling on it too hard, which is also not super great. All right, so this lined up pretty well. I'm just going to kind of gently nudge decal up because I want it right up at the top. And you can see down here, there's this is the part where the decal overlaps itself. What I'm going to do here is, instead of trying to use my fingers, I'm going to use my hobby knife, not because I want to cut anything, but because it has a thin blade. And it seems to be lined up reasonably well. All right, now that everything is basically where I want it, I think I am going to just gently smooth out any bubbles that I see. And I'm pushing them. I want to push them kind of counterclockwise, I guess, because that's where the end of the layer is. There's a little bit of a tear developing there. That's unfortunate, but not too big of a deal. Okay. That looks reasonably good. Okay, now it's really important for me to not touch that anymore because I don't want to adjust it. I don't want to bump it. I don't want to tear it. And as it gets, as it dries out completely, it will get a little fragile. Now, it's also worth pointing out here that the instructions generally call for you to put, or suggest as an option, to clear coat it with spray paint. I strongly recommend that you do clear coat it with spray paint if you are applying waterslide decals. You put in a decent amount of effort on this, so the last thing you want to do is you land one of these things in maybe some dry grass, and the dry grass is sharp enough to scratch the decal. Decals are fragile, and putting a clear coat of spray paint on it really doesn't do much for the aesthetics. If it's gloss covering, then it's still going to be, my underlying coat here is glossy, so it's not going to change that, but it's just protection. That's the main reason, just to protect. All right. The next one I'm going to do here, this is the nameplate. It says Loadstar on it. It looks like it's supposed to go kind of like down the middle of the first stage here. I'm going to try to, there we go. I'm going to start it somewhere around here. You, of course, could make all sorts of nice measurements, center this and all that if you really want to. Honestly, I think that's more trouble than it's worth. But again, it's your rocket. The aesthetics are definitely up to you. All right, so that looks decent. I'm going to hold down the one end and then brush out any kind of bubbles or anything like that up. Now, of course, I need to dab it back where I was holding it. All right. Okay. Now, let's do, I think the last things, I'm not going to, water's getting a little lukewarm to begin with as it is, but I'll do 2 of these fin decals and then wrap up construction, I guess. There are 6 of these decals, and they're 2 sets of 3, as it turns out. So they don't just fit wherever you want them to. This one is going to fit in like so. And this one will fit in like so on the other side. So they're not totally interchangeable. I mean, they are to some extent because you can put a waterslide decal on upside down if you really, really wanted to or had to. But since they are cut differently, there's no reason to do that. So we'll just be a little bit on the careful side and put them in the right places. All right, I'm actually going to toss in the next one before I put this one on because one, I'm going to operate under the assumption that I can do this fairly quickly, and two, it would be nice to have the other one good to go as I'm ready for it. All right, so the instructions basically show this is going near the bottom of the fin, somewhere near the bottom of the fin, and you can see that I had it folded over a little bit, so that's not super great. I don't want it there. I'm going to adjust it, which is, again, the nice thing about waterslide decals is you can adjust it, at least for a while, and with some certain limitations on it. All right, I think I like that. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to try to get the rest of my decals approximately in this position. So like, I don't know, is that a quarter of an inch, something like that, of space between the bottom of the fin and where the decal starts. Since I have this next one ready to go, I'm going to try to get it basically in the same spot. And you can, again, if you really wanted to measure all this stuff out, you could. I just don't see the value. I think it looks, so long as it's not like obviously not even close. Nobody's going to come up to you on the launch pad and be like, hey, you were at a quarter of an inch here and 3/8 here. That looks dumb. Here, you made a bad rocket. Nobody's going to do that. Yeah, I mean, this one is, whoops. Well, apparently that's going to fix that problem. This one is a little bit higher up. But it's not really a big deal. All right. So the other second stage fins, I'm going to do the exact same thing. The two stars, I'm going to put like here and here, I think, on the first stage. My water is quite cold. Well, it's tepid anyway at the moment. So I'm going to do the rest of that off camera, but that at least gives us a good opportunity to wrap up the construction. Now, I am not going to completely complete everything here for good reason, and that good reason is I need to clear coat things, and I don't want to clear coat the top, the nose cone, because it's got this plastic part in it. I do not want to paint that. So this is done. No more painting on that. Clear coat will happen on the bottom half, but I want to put as much of this together as possible. So I'm going to put the shock cord together and install that. And what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to stuff some of this paper towel or some newsprint or something into, in here, just to, well, so there isn't paint coming down the rocket body, and to protect the shock cord, because the shock cord does not need any paint on it. That would not be helpful. All right, so standard construction here for a shock cord installation, at least for Estes kits. Here's the remaining material from the kit. There's my shock cord. And I'll need the parachute here in a little bit too, I guess. Might as well do that. A couple stripes of glue on number 2. This is a nice heavy shock cord too. I'm not really sure it needs to be this heavy, but nothing wrong. Basically, you can't have a shock cord that is too long. One of the adults with whom I fly rockets likes to do, what did he say, like 4 times as long as the kit? in shot cord. So he's got some 5-foot long kits that have 20 feet of shot cord. He doesn't use elastic because they're heavier, they're bigger. But yeah, shot cord, you basically can't have too much of it. Especially if you're using Kevlar stuff, because that stuff is light. Alright, so shot cord done. I'm going to clean my hands off here just in case, because I really don't want to touch the decal there that is basically good to go with any kind of glue on my hand. Alright, glue on this thing. The important part here is that we need to get it far enough down into the rocket body so that the nose cone fits in it nicely. So I'm going to kind of load it. Oops, on my thumb again. I'm going to load it up on my index finger. I'm going to push it down as far in as my index finger can reach, and then I'm going to push it down against the rocket body. I'm kind of squishing out any air bubbles that might be there in there because we want this to fit as flush as possible so nothing ever gets snagged on it. Alright, looks like I didn't bump the decal. That was my biggest concern there. Alright, so that's taken care of. I'm actually going to dump the shot cord inside right now just to get it out of the way. I was careful, so there's probably not any glue kicking around there. I need to put a couple more decals on that, but as a last element that's going to be filmed here, let's deal with the nose cone and the parachute. Again, this is optional, but having one of these fishing swivels is nice. Cuts down on tangles as the rocket's coming down, because in theory, the parachute and the rocket can spin independently of each other. In practice, yeah, it is not a magic bullet. It doesn't cure all what ails you, unfortunately, but it does help. It does help quite a bit. And these things are dirt cheap. I think it's like $5 for 50. So, and it's also, they're light. So if you're concerned about the weight budget of your rocket as well, you're not really doing it much harm. Okay, let's get you out of the way. Way too. Okay, I've done this many times on camera, but if you haven't seen it before, kind of unfurl everything here. This is a big parachute for this rocket. I don't think this rocket's that heavy, but okay. So I'm going to gather up the threads, pull them kind of taut, and then this loop is going to go through the eye of my barrel. Okay. Reopen this, and then the easiest way to make the knot is to just push the barrel up through, and then pull everything tight. There we go. Unclasp here. Ooh, it's stuck. There we go. And, oh, I didn't actually punch this out yet. Oh, that's news. Okay, well, grab your hobby knife. Always cut away from the part that's the thin part that's going to stay. So I'm going to cut that down this way. Same over here. Watching your fingers, of course. That might be good enough. There we go. Get that out. This is, of course, where you're going to tie the other end of the shot cord as well. But remember, I'm not doing that now, because if I did that, then I would have to either not clear coat things, or I would have to clear coat the top and I don't want to clear coat the top. Remember that this part not painted. All right, so that's good. This thing got a little tangled in itself already. There we go. All right. Oh, I know. So this is a huge parachute, right? Maybe you don't want this to be as huge, and you don't think it's really necessary. I don't think it's really necessary. An option for you is, here's the parachute. There's a dotted line here. You can cut that out and make a spill hole at the top. It actually provides a bit more stability, is my understanding, as the rocket comes down. It will make it fall a little faster, but not like dangerously so. So something to consider if you find that this thing's hanging up forever and you really don't want it to. You could consider cutting the hole out. All right, so I have a couple more decals to put on, but I'm not going to do that on camera. That pretty much wraps up this construction. Thanks for watching, and I hope you learned something. And I think I might have a quick little video as a follow through on doing 2-stage launches, but the constructions on this is done. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.